If it hurts, you ain't the brakes, no get you know it up, put on more steam. Protect our kickers, our quarterback, our lead, our ball game. All obstacles, block, cut, sides, through the games after this win in. First you again, we're here for the first minute. Carry block, you never 6 minutes.
Just look around. You got the mountains, you got the most beautiful city in the whole entire country. The university is absolutely, looks like it's out of a storybook. It's just beautiful. People are incredibly genuine and extremely nice. It's just a place that obviously I'd want my kids to go to school. And it sells itself. You don't have to sell anything about this place. You just got to get them here. You know, the old field of dreams. Yeah. Build it and they will come. It's already built.
Yeah, I didn't sign any mustard bottles or golf balls. Maybe wish I had had a golf ball that night, you know what I mean? But I'm only kidding. All right.
Like I said, like we play with a chip on our shoulder at Tennessee. So, you know, we get a lot of disrespect. So we want to make it clear that we're going to come out and dominate day in and day out.
Do you remember when we fell in love? I remember, don't worry. Do you remember? I remember how it all began. How could I ever forget? It's the first time. Do you remember? I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it. It's coming in the air tonight. We fell in love. You remember the time. How could I ever forget? You remember the time. We fell in love. You remember the time. How could I ever forget? Coming in the air tonight.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Got a fun show for you guys tonight. Matt Ray of Volquest.com is going to be in the house. I know you guys got questions. You guys are excited about a big January coming your way in the world of recruiting, but we are going to press Matt, and we're going to get all the answers that you guys want. He's going to give us about 40 minutes. Going to wrap up with him around 7:40. The X Factor, Coach Jay, going to be in the house. We're going to continue to talk Tennessee football all night long because that's what we do here. But right out of the gate, you guys know what to do. Smash the thumbs up just below the video. That is quick, free, and easy, and it helps the channel. Look, when you guys smash that thumbs up, when you destroy that thumbs up, it recommends this video to other people, and I would greatly appreciate it. We can continue to grow this channel. We are about 100 subscribers away from 21,000 subscribers. My mind was blown earlier today. Looking through the analytics of YouTube, it said 42% of our viewers are not subscribed. What are you waiting for? Get subscribed, get dialed in right here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. You guys know the deal by now. For the fans, by the fans, we're building a community of Tennessee fans right here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. But look, we are blessed. We are fortunate to have this platform where we get guys like Matt Ray to come in and give us a little inside information. Let's run down the chat. Let's see who's hanging out here bright and early. Jonah's in the house. What is up? Says, howdy, Vol Nation. Matt Dumet is here. Says, go Big Orange. Kelly Goodwin in the house. Says, what's up, Vol Nation? D. Taylor is here. See, I'm not the only one, guys. I'm not the only one that likes App State and Tennessee. It is possible. It can be done. Ozman is here. Bubbles in the house. Negavol is in the house. Daniel Gregory is here. Joey Carroll is here. Kelly says, let's go. GBO. Chris Farmer is in the house. Jay Witt is here as well. Will Murley in the house just says, Boogie. What's up, buddy? Good to see you in the chat. Adrian Wells is here. Kenny Jones is here. I saw somebody in the chat said, I love these crossovers with Volquest. Yeah, you guys can go thank Eric Kane. He's the one that's building the bridge and says, hey, maybe Boogie's respectable. Maybe we can respect him a little bit and come hang out. WL Page 22 becomes a member of the channel. We appreciate that support. You guys can hit the join button down below. Make it happen. Get custom Talkin VAWLS emojis, all kinds of fun stuff. So let's jump into it. Look, without further ado, let's get the man on here. He's got 40 minutes. We got to jump right into it. Matt Ray, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for coming on the channel.
What's going on, Boogie? Good to be here, man.
We got so much to get into, and I'm throwing a curveball at you. Right out of the gate, I'm going to throw a curveball at you because, look, we know it's been a big month of recruiting, a lot of official visits the last couple of weeks particularly. A lot of movement, I think, is going to be coming in July. We're going to get into that, but I'm throwing a curveball right at you right out of the gate because one of the biggest things that I get on this channel when we're covering big-time prospects, Williams Winery is the most recent one. NIL. Let's talk about NIL right out of the gate because I think a lot of people, a lot of fans think NIL is more of a factor than it actually is. It's one of the number one comments I get. If a guy chooses another school, Tennessee loses momentum, it's immediately all about money. Kind of lay that out. How big of a player is NIL versus what the casual fan thinks?
I mean, I don't think it's as big of a player as it appears to be. Now, obviously, it's going to keep you in conversations. It's going to keep you in recruitments, to the point where you're there at the end. But at the end of the day, you have to close. You have to have player development. And again, there's a few things where you're going to see the guy, a guy or two in a class take whatever the best offer is, and that's that. They think all the schools are great, and they're going to roll that way with it. But, consistently, and I don't think kids are usually blowing smoke on this, NFL over NIL. To me, Williams Winery is a guy that I think, if he ends up going to Georgia at the end of the day, it's a good example of that. Georgia's motto right now is not built around NIL. It's built around their platform of development, going against the best players, in the conference, in the country, day in, day out, and eventually that turned into what you've seen on draft day the last 2 years in the first round for those guys. So to me, NIL is a factor. Obviously, it can't be overlooked, but it's not everything. It's definitely not everything, and I think more so in this class, especially where I wouldn't say the market is evening out because it's not necessarily evening out, but everybody has more of an understanding of that market and what to expect. So to me, NIL is important. It's not everything.
Yeah. How much do you think it's kind of coming out of the gates, like all the stuff about Nico and how much he was getting and his deal, kind of how much of that's kind of backing off, you mentioned particularly this class, because it's not sustainable. You cannot continue to pay those big time contracts and those big time NIL deals. I just don't think you can sustain that.
No, you're absolutely right. You can't sustain that. And the problem that you run into again, right, is if you're trying to do that and you end up signing a guy that's a diamond in the rough, right, and then you don't have to really put any NIL time or any NIL investment into him early. He produces for you in year one, year two, and then a couple of years later, there's a kid at his position coming out of school that's a 5-star, hasn't played a snap of football, and you're going to drive that, try to drive his value up in the NIL game. It just doesn't make sense because then this kid comes back, the kid that's been producing for you on the field on Saturdays comes back with more leverage. So you've either got to try to hold on to him, upset him. You just don't do yourself any benefit. So I think, the best approach to this, and I think you're seeing a lot of collectives take this, is not a salary cap deal top by position. Kind of treating this like you're managing an NFL roster and how you want to, go about that, how you want to go about the transfer portal, those type of things. And sometimes, again, we see it in free agency, you're going to overspend. You may have to. You may need a quarterback that, you have to overspend for in the transfer portal or in the recruiting class, whatever it may be. So, I mean, there's exceptions to the rules, but I think that's where the market is evening out more.
Well, I want to take a quick second here to promote Spire Sports Group. Join the volunteer club. There's a link in the description. We are a Spire Sports Group affiliate. You guys click that link. We would appreciate it. How much do you think, Matt? Look, it's like, do we need more money? Yes, we need more money. If somebody asks me, Boogie, do you want me to join the channel? Yeah, I'll take more money. Well, do you want me to join for $1 a month or 10? Well, clearly $10 a month. We always need more money. How do you think Tennessee's doing? How do you think Spire Sports Group is doing in the NIL game? Do you think we need to continue to push memberships? Because honestly, I'm surprised when they put this ticker up here. It was very eye-opening for me. Under 3,000 active memberships. Do you think we need to continue to push NIL with Spire Sports Group?
Yeah, I think when you look at it in the last year, Tennessee has spoke out about Spire at some point. That's obviously the NIL collective around the university. They continue to, I think, do a good job. They're been one of the driving forces in this NIL world. So, I mean, I don't think you can underestimate the importance of Spire and the work that Hunter and James and those guys have done. And there's several more there. That are in the, deep side of this, working every day to try to figure out how to support the student athletes at the University of Tennessee.
Well, I know I wanted to throw a curveball at you and kind of talk about NIL, mainly because I've seen so many comments about Williams-Winery and, it's clearly money. It's got to be about money. But let's jump into it. Let's talk a little bit about recruiting. Busy month of June as far as visits are concerned. Tennessee loaded up heavy on the back half of the month, the weekend of June 16th, and then you follow that up with the 23rd. Just a lot of big-time targets on campus. In between those two weekends, man, you saw a little momentum. Boo Carter gets in the boat. This fan base was going here. They were just climbing the mountain, right? Getting more and more fired up. Boo Carter's in the boat. Jordan Burns comes out of left field and kind of shocks a lot of people. Max Anderson, I think, is a huge guy to get in the boat. What do you think July is going to look like for Tennessee? Do you think the fan base is going to be happy when we get through these next, 4 to 5 weeks?
Yeah, I think where we're at right now, again, you still have to close recruitments out, and you'll probably hear me say that several times. And that's hard to do when you're in these types of battles because there's so many unexpected twists and turns. But I absolutely think that, Tennessee, they backloaded this visit schedule. And when you're going into those last 2 weeks of June there, as far as official visits go, the 16th and the 23rd, those 2 weekends, it didn't feel like Tennessee had momentum with guys. But those guys had visited other schools earlier in the month. Tennessee likes to get that last touch, and now it's paid off. They really built momentum this last week, especially. July, still hearing some guys flirt like an early August decision, but July, 10 to 12 targets coming off the board, and you've heard AP say it. I think he coined it right the first time, and I've used it a bunch now as well. Just get your fair share. And I think Tennessee set themselves up to have a chance to do that. It should be a very interesting July.
Something they were talking about on the podcast this week, and you weren't on the podcast, and I was like, "Where's Matt? Where's Matt? Why is Matt taking time off?" You do have some big time commitments coming up over the next week, and you've got Braylon Staley coming off the board on Friday on the 30th. Do you know? Is there a time? I don't know. I don't think I've seen a time for him. I've just seen that he said he's going to do it on Friday. Do you know if he has a time?
Sometime in the afternoon, from what I've been told, sometime between 4 and probably 7 p.m.
You've got Elijah Rushing coming off the board July the 6th. You got Braylon Russell coming off the board. Just a lot of guys that Tennessee is very much in it for. Let's see. Let me. Where do I want to go? Do I want to go back to June the 16th, or do we want to move ahead to June the 23rd? Let's talk. Let's come out hot out of the gate. There's a guy that everybody wants to know about, and I can't remember. It was one of the On3 national recruiting analysts on Sunday. And look, I represent the fan base for the fans, by the fans. That's what we do around here. I can't remember. It wasn't Spiegelman. Somebody tweeted out, Tennessee is going to see some activity on Sunday. We all got excited. We're all looking at our phones. Boo Carter's tweeting out eyeball emojis. Everybody's excited. Everybody's speculating. Mike Matthews, coming off of the visit on June the 23rd. Boo Carter's in town, big buddies with Mike Matthews. How do you think Tennessee did with the 5-star wide receiver?
I think Tennessee crushed the visit with Mike Matthews. I think he had as good a time as you could expect. For me, I talked to Mike post-visit, and this is a kid that's been on a lot of trips. He plays with, in my opinion, year in, year out, the best 7-on-7 team in the country, Hustle Inc., out of Atlanta. He's around big-time recruits. He's been in this process since early in his sophomore year. So he's seen a lot of places. He understands the pitch. He's had a good time. He was here for the Alabama game. He's been in Georgia for big games. He's been at Clemson for big games. When Mike Matthews told me this weekend that was the most different visit that he had, I knew then Tennessee had crushed the visit weekend with him. He's big on culture. He's big on what the Vols do offensively. But again, you got a dead month here. I don't expect anything out of Matthews before the middle of July. We'll see. He's flirted around, that he could potentially take a visit the last weekend of July to an Ohio State or an Alabama. I don't see that coming to fruition. We'll see if it does. But to me, Mike Matthews, has been high on Tennessee for a while. He was here again, as I mentioned, for that Alabama game. He loved it. He's got a really strong relationship with Kelsey Pope. Josh Heupel's been very important in this one. Coming out of the month of June, I like where the Vols continue to sit. Now, Georgia's going to swing. They don't want to lose an in-state guy to Tennessee. And Clemson's been in this one for a while, and they're not going to go away. But to me, I think Tennessee did as good as they could do with Mike Matthews that final weekend of June.
Sometimes when you see my eyeballs swirling around my head, I'm thinking 14 things at once. Now I'm back on track. I remember what I wanted to ask you about the Volquest podcast that you weren't on, but I got to do a little bit of business, and then hopefully I don't forget. WL Page 22 for $2. Thank you for the tip in the tip jar, my man. We appreciate that. We got almost 200 people watching live. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me and Matt here on this Wednesday night. Show Matt some love. You can go to Twitter at Matt_Ray_. I've also got the links in the description. You can check out his work over at Volquest.com. Do you guys still have a deal going on right now, or is that expired?
I think that's expired. I'm probably the wrong one to ask on that, but I think that's expired.
Well, regardless, even if it's full price, I've been a Volquest member for, I can't even remember how long. So long enough to know that you were blessed when you came in, because I've seen AP Hayes, everybody that comes in. Somehow you come in and he immediately praises you for your work, says that you're one of the best in the world of recruiting. You got elevated right out of the gate. I was like, well, that's an interesting tactic, because poor Eric Kane is still getting hazed and annihilated. But I told you before we went live, man, I'd seen your work over at SI.com. You fit in great over at Volquest. Everybody in the chat, everybody that watches my channel knows I'm a big supporter of what you guys do. Walter Davis becomes a member of the channel at Emoji Access. Appreciate that support, brother. Let's go back to the Volquest podcast that you weren't a part of. Something that they kind of talked about was this coaching staff on the official visits. Everybody comes in. They're kind of laid back. We hear about the culture. We hear about the family atmosphere. They don't really pressure kids. Whereas, a guy that we could talk about specifically that they mentioned by name was Kai Bates, went to LSU. They kind of put the pressure on him. Hey, you need to commit. You need to commit. You need to commit. We've heard the stories about Clemson. Once you commit, no more visits. You're done. You're locked down. Whereas this coaching staff is a little bit more laid back. Now, there's some pros and cons to that. What are your thoughts on that? Because coming out of the weekend of all these huge official visits, everybody's like, okay, somebody's committing. So, and it's just kind of chill and calm. What are the pros and cons of the way that this coaching staff takes that in?
Well, I think, again, let's go to Kyle Bates, right off. I don't think there was ever any doubt that when he went to LSU that he was going to have a good time. That's what these official visits are designed for. It seemed like, at the midpoint of that visit that they maybe had gained some momentum with him. Then they start pressing. To me, that right there is one of the cons of it when you do that. Kai Bates comes out, he has a good time, he gets back home, he sits down, he thinks about it. The way Tennessee approached him, I would put him as a lean toward the Vols right now here, at the end of June with a late July decision likely. Now, does that mean LSU is going to go away? Can they make up whatever? Yes, absolutely they can. But the other con of not pressing is that I think some guys want to be pressed, Boogie. I mean, some guys, they want to sit down in a coach's office and feel like, hey, this guy wants me here. Like, yeah, you're telling him you want me here, but let's sit down one-to-one and, have that conversation. Hey, we want you in the boat. We want you here now. This is what we're looking like number-wise. Like, some guys are very in tune with that. Jordan Burns, Tennessee didn't press Jordan Burns for a commitment, but I can tell you right now from talking to Jordan Burns dating back to April, he's been asking questions about how many linebackers Tennessee were taking, where their top targets were looking, who the other guys that could be around him in the class were. He come into that official visit looking to check all of that off. He got back home at 6 o'clock that Monday before he committed. He was not committed until July 3rd. Again, Tennessee didn't press him. By 10 o'clock that night, he had called Tennessee. He wanted in the boat. He announced the next day at lunch. So, I mean, there's good and bad with it. I think, to me, a lot of times for Tennessee, that family culture wins out. I think there's other times where, if you're talking, June 16th, you run the risk of a guy like Kai Bates getting to, campus at LSU and potentially committing there. Cameron Fountain, to me, is a prime example. He's up for an unofficial visit at the end of May. Tells the Tennessee coaching staff that he wants in and is going to do it on August 4th. They respect that. He doesn't go public with it, and he goes to USC the next weekend on his first official visit out there. Boom, they lock him in, and you miss out there. Now you'll have a chance to circle back around, but it's just the world of recruiting, in my opinion. It's a very fine line, and I like to tell people all the time, that's why some of these hard decisions these coaches have to make, that's why they get the money that they do. And if they don't pan out right for you in the long run, that's why you're headed to the unemployment line sometimes.
Do you think Cam Fountain is a guy that Tennessee will ultimately get back on campus for another shot?
I would be surprised if they don't get Cam Fountain back on campus for another shot. I really would. That one's been trending out of Tennessee since the winter. I think he got to USC. I think he saw, them roll out the red carpet, if you will, for him and really show him a good time. It was his first official visit, first time out on the West Coast. Again, all these official visits are designed. There's so much study and strategy that goes into making sure these kids have a good time and everything's tailored to them. But to me, I would be surprised if Cameron Fountain's not back at Tennessee at some point this fall to give the Vols a deeper look.
Rocky Top Tom for $5. Appreciate the super chat, brother. Says, Dorothy, I hate to be that guy, but what have I missed? 30-second rundown. Where do we stand? Well, you got here at the perfect time, Tom, because we talked a lot of NIL at the top of the show. We're getting into the meat and potatoes of recruiting right now. So you've not missed a whole lot. Matt, if Tennessee, I've been preaching this, and I probably shouldn't because I raised expectations around here. I've been saying I think Tennessee could possibly land a top 5 class if things go their way. And, when AP was on the show, he's like, you got to land your fair share. You're not going to get them all. When you're targeting some of these big-time prospects like Tennessee is, you're not going to get them all. But if Tennessee were to land a top 5 class as of now, what do they have to do from here? Who do they have to get in the boat down the stretch to get that top 5 class?
Oh man, that's tough. That's a good question. You need it starts again with Mike Matthews. You need to get a Jordan Ross, a Cam Franklin, probably a Danny Okoye, an Amari Jefferson, and then you need to be swinging at Ryan Wingo, and have a chance to win that one there later in the recruiting cycle. I think that one's probably going to go to November or December at this point. And then, again, you need some guys that you evaluated early. You need to see them get a rankings bump. I think Jesse Perry is much better than his rankings suggest. But at the same time, is he going to get a bump? It's hard to say because he plays in a predominantly run-first offense. So it's hard to rank him high when you don't know what he has in the pass pro side of things. But Tennessee, on the other hand, has got to work him out extensively on that front. They've seen that. They feel comfortable with those answers. A guy like Jeremiah's hurt. I mean, to me, there's only one of those in this class. 6'8", 295 pounds, looks like he's 270, not an, ounce of body fat on him, extremely long arms, can play defensive line, can play offensive tackle. He's only been playing football for a year. He hasn't even been playing a year yet. He started last July when Model started summer workouts. So what does year 2 look like for him? Doesn't play at the highest level of competition there in Georgia, so it's kind of hard to predict if he'll get a bump. A guy that I think's in line for a bump, I would have to imagine, is Gage Ginther. I think he's a really uber athletic tackle body that can do a lot of things for Tennessee, thrives at the second level. But again, you never know what some of these guys are going to get bump-wise. I think that's as important as landing some of these other guys. You can't have those lower top numbers dragging you down at the end of the day. But regardless, I think one thing that I can say confidently about this Tennessee staff is they trust their evaluation and they're gonna go to the mat with it. And I think it's paid off in a lot of ways. And they evaluate a lot of different things. And they don't get caught up in the rankings and haven't yet. And you can point to him all day long, but Nathan Laycock is the prime example of that. Finished, top 50 in the On3 rankings, and nobody was really talking about him. In terms of that, this time last year, you're just hearing from, the media that, oh, he's a really good player, but it turns out he's a really good player.
Let me get caught up here on Super Chats. Isaac Rice for $1. Appreciate the tip in the tip jar. Logan Brandon for $10. That is not cheap. Appreciate that Super Chat. Says, looking forward to listening to the fall. I think he means fall of the Vols series on my way to the beach tomorrow. Can't wait for a real rise of the Vols series. It's going to happen. Playoff in the next 2 years. Book it. Anybody that's not familiar with what Logan is talking about, we did a series right when Josh Heupel was hired called The Fall of the Vols, talking about how you go from a national championship winning Philip Fulmer to like 5 coaches in however many years. Dude, we did a deep dive. Lots of research went into that. If you missed it, go check out the playlist, and it's Fall of the Vols. It's worth a watch. Appreciate the Super Chat, Logan. Dylan for $5. Appreciate that. Says, question for Matt, who's the most underrated recruit we picked up at this point into the cycle in your eyes? You mentioned a couple there in Jesse Perry and Gage Ginther. Was one of those who you want to go with or throw a wild card at him?
Yeah, no, give me Gage Ginther on I'll give you 2. Give me Gage Ginther on the offensive side of the football. Again, I just think he's super athletic. I mean, he looks like $1 million. Saw him again this weekend. And he started to climb the rankings a little bit, but at the time of the commitment, give me Marcus Gorey. Man, that's a cat that can do anything you want him to do in the secondary. Has so much potential, so long, can press, can run, not afraid to come up and strike you, just does so many different things in that Bradley Central secondary. He's getting some help now that Boo Carter's there alongside him. I think Marcus Gorey's in for a big senior season there at Bradley Central, a guy that Tennessee has coveted early and I think was very underrated at the time of his commitment.
Kind of this is going to bleed right into where I wanted to go next, and that's recruiting on the offensive line because, I'm a fan, but information gets regurgitated, and part of that is Gage Ginther. Like I don't know who started that. Once one person said it, everybody's talking about how Gage Ginther is underrated. But something else I hear a lot from people that are on the inside or experts or whoever you want to call them is that the offensive line is more of a development piece. Like it is hard to evaluate talent on the offensive line. But what do you think up to this point as far as Glenn Ellerbe in the recruiting cycle? I think a lot of people go back to last year because you had Francis Mauigoa, you had Stanton Ramel, Shamrod. Of course, you landed Shamrod Umarov. You had Lucas Simmons, and it was almost like going back to the AP quote, you got to land your fair share. I think a lot of us, myself included, it's like, all right, if we can get 2 of those guys, and it goes back to priority and NIL, did that play a part of it? But recruiting on the offensive line, you've got Max Anderson in the boat, 4-star interior offensive lineman, Gage Ginther, and Jesse Perry, who you've talked about, of course, some big-time targets. Bennett Warren is a lifesaver for me. Marquez Easley, Daniel Calhoun, I was like, can we get one of those guys? And you can touch on Marquez Easley if you want. That's kind of a weird deal to me because I don't know any of the inside stuff of takes his visit, no longer a take. But Bennett Warren, William Satterwhite, Ronan O'Connell, I threw a lot of stuff at you on the offensive line, but what's your overall take?
Yeah, I mean, I think let's go back to the piece about the developmental piece. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think every position is developmental in a way. But you still want to land those elite guys that can come in and make an impact for you in year one. And Tennessee was in their fair share of those last year. And I think ideally the number was 2. There was Sham, there was Francis, there was Lucas, and there was Stanton Ramel. And they landed Sham, but at multiple points, it felt like they were going to land Stanton Ramel. That didn't go their way. When Francis left here during that final official visit, which was basically this time a year ago, it felt like the Vols had the momentum as he went back to Hawaii, was going to take time with his family and decide. It felt like at one point they were really, really in it for Lucas Simmons. They come down to the final 2, but again, being in the final 2 doesn't do anything on Saturdays, doesn't do anything for your program. You have to close some of those out. But I think last year was a different type of year in terms of winning those battles. I don't know when you kind of look across the board that any team was going to line up and win 2 of those 4. Maybe, but at the end of the day, I think Glenn Ellerby recruits a different, type of offensive lineman. I think he likes a lot of versatility, and I think that's something that's required in Tennessee's offense. Also, go back to something that Darnell Wright touched on. Basically, as they're lined up on the offensive line, they know they're just as in tune with what's going on out there in this system. I know everybody thinks it's a very simple system, like it gets, poked around that it's gimmicky, but there's so many moving parts to it. The offensive line has so many different things. Like they're going on the fly out there as plays are getting called in too. So to me, I think Glenn Ellerby, wants, a lot of IQ boxes checked. I think he wants, a lot of versatility checked. And from there, then you just have to have the measurables and everything else that's required to be, a Division I high-level SEC football player. This time around the offensive line recruiting, I know it's been over in the general's quarters. It's been one of the bigger concerns. Feels like Tennessee's missed on a few guys. I think you're absolutely right. I think Bennett Warren you have to have him. He's a guy that can be a big-time tackle presence for you. He's every bit as big as his measurables list, which I think 6'7" and a half. Really super long. To me, the first thing, and I think I put this note in the general's quarters. Somebody asked about Bennett Warren. The one of the things I said, I think academics is going to be really important during this visit. So take that back to what Glenn Ellerby's looking for, what he's trying, what he kind of covets in a lot of different ways. Because I think the poster that commented it kind of thought I was being sarcastic in it, but I wasn't anyway. But there's a chance that this offensive line group still turns out to look really, really good at the end of the day. If Tennessee can close the deal here, I think the Vols are probably the team to beat for Ronan O'Connell right now, but Clemson's trying to work their way in there, make things interesting. It's a dogfight, in my opinion, for William Satterwhite with Clemson there as well. And then Bennett Warren, I'm interested to see when he decides to make a decision. I think the Vols really, really put their best foot forward with him this past weekend. Michigan's not going to go away there just yet. Now, they have a lot of offensive tackle bodies in their class right now, and are trying to add another one. So I'm interested to see what happens. And, I don't want to mispronounce the kid's name. I haven't covered him, but I want to say it's Michael Uni. He's going to decide sometime this week. And if he goes to Michigan, I think that only helps the Vols cause. If he chooses Georgia or one of these other schools, then, Michigan's obviously going to circle back to Bennett Warren and press even harder. And they've been, considered a leader there at one point. And then, Texas A&M's trying to hang around in there too. Now, Tennessee they'll try to get Brandon Baker back to campus at some point in July, some point in the fall. It doesn't seem like his recruitment's coming to a close, but that one feels like a little bit of a long shot. But, you hear us say this all the time. If you can get a kid to campus multiple times, anything can happen.
So we got about 5 minutes here, then we're going to get you out the door. We got about 250 people watching live. Guys, smash the thumbs up. We would appreciate it. Go check out Matt. You can give him a follow on Twitter at Matt_Ray_. That's also in the description below. Also, go check out Volquest.com. I talk about them all the time. Matt's talking about the General's Quarters. They have a community there just like we have here. The Monday night chat is one of the best things that's going on over there. Every single Monday night, they answer questions all night long, and it's such good information. I encourage you guys, go check it out. Before we get you out the door, we're going to play a little rapid fire here. I don't know how you want to do it. You can say Tennessee is in a good spot. You can throw percentages. You can take this however you want to take it. I'm going to throw about 7 guys that I think Tennessee needs to land. We'll start Friday. I think we need a little momentum. We need a little excitement. 4-star wide receiver Braylon Staley out of South Carolina.
Vols are in a good spot. North Carolina swung. Clemson's still hanging around there, but the Vols are in a good spot.
Coming up on July the 6th, 5 p.m., 5-star edge rusher Elijah Rushing.
Lean Oregon tonight. Vols are in it. Consistently have worked the phones over the past 2 days. Tennessee made a big impression during the official visit. We'll see which way this one goes. I think it's going to be harder at the end of the day to pull them off the West Coast, but Tennessee's not going down in this one until the end.
This is a guy that I like, 4-star running back Braylon Russell. Did he legitimately show up on campus at 250?
Yeah.
That's what I keep hearing. I think one of the other sites has him at like 225. I think On3 has him at like 230. And then I see on Volquest, he showed up on campus at 250.
Let me tell you something. If you eyeball him, it's 225. I've never seen a kid carry their weight like him. Now somebody told me he's got a long torso, and thinking back on it, he does. He was here this time last year for a camp, and he was around 225 at the time. He's a legitimate 250. He is a load. Midland, Tennessee there right now. He's got a July 14th decision. Arkansas's not going away in that one. It's really down to those two.
We've already touched on him a little bit. 5-star wide receiver Mike Matthews.
Yeah. Again, just an absolute dogfight for I told Mike this earlier today. I think he's probably the most dynamic player in the country. So an absolute dogfight for him, a guy that would be a 5-star wide receiver or a 5-star safety. But I think Tennessee's positioned itself as well as they can. We'll see where this thing goes in July. But I do think it's over by late July.
4-star or 5-star, depending on where you look, defensive lineman Camarion Franklin.
Man, I knew you were going to have a Camarion Franklin on here, and that's probably the toughest one right now. He's really tough to read. It felt really good about Tennessee coming out of the official visit. I don't know that in Camarion Franklin's mind right now that there's a true leader. That's to me the most interesting thing about him. He came out of the official visit and then he immediately canceled his LSU official visit. It felt like once he went back to Ole Miss and went to Miami, like, oh, this thing's coming to a close. Well, we'll see if it does. But to me, I don't think there's a leader for Camarion Franklin, but the Vols are in this one until the end. He told me months ago Tennessee's going to be in this one for as long as they recruit me, and the Vols aren't going to relent. I think Miami's probably the biggest competitor there. To me, he doesn't feel like a Miami kid. Ole Miss is, not going to go away for the in-state kid that's just down the road. So that one's probably got a few twists and turns left, but Tennessee's as deep in it as you can be.
I'll skip Jordan Ross, 5-star edge rusher, because he seems to play his cards close to the vest. Talking about Florida, Georgia, Tennessee. I may silent commit. I may not. We don't know what's coming. We'll save that for another day. Let's wrap things up. 4-star wide receiver, priority in-state target, Amari Jefferson.
Yeah, priority. I think that sums it up right there. He's a priority guy. This one's been back and forth too. At one point, it was Alabama, Georgia, and then it was Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. And then going into official visits, the more I poked around into it, it felt like Alabama, Tennessee. Now the Crimson Tide, they grabbed some momentum there during their OV earlier this month. I think Tennessee swung it right back. I think this one's neck and neck headed towards the finish line. I think if you ask somebody on our side, we'd say 51% Tennessee. I think if you ask somebody on the Alabama side, they'd say 51% Alabama. Both teams have some really interesting pitches to him. I think at the end of the day, I think he likes the development under Kelsey Pope. I think the baseball program under Tony Vitello is very important in this one. He hasn't had a chance to meet the new Alabama baseball staff in person. So, keep an eye on when he decides. There's Alabama expects to have him back on campus at the end of July when everything opens back up. So, if that's the case, then I think Alabama's, maybe got a little bit more of the inside track. We'll see. But I think Tennessee really, did as well as they could this weekend with Amari Jefferson. Some of these guys in state are leaning on him a little bit more now. And before I get out the door here, we've talked about this a lot, but Boo Carter is that guy, for Tennessee in this class that they needed. Now, is everybody going to just say, oh, I'm going to Tennessee to play with Boo? No, but he's that guy that's going to be a vocal peer recruiter for Tennessee. He's going to get out there. He's going to tell guys exactly what he thinks. He's very well known. He's very well liked, and he has already gone to work.
Well, I told you 40 minutes. You gave me about 3 minutes of overtime. I appreciate your time.
Man, I appreciate it.
This will not be the last. We'll get you back on the channel. Looking forward to talking more football with you. Guys, go check him out. Again, all the links are in the description for Volquest, for his Twitter. Anything else you want to plug, or is that the main two things?
No, man, that's it. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate your time, man. You have a good night, and we'll touch base soon.
Sounds good. Look forward to the next time.
All right, have a good night, buddy. All right, guys, we're going to keep on rolling. That is not the end of the show. Don't you go anywhere. We got 260 people watching live right now. Coach Jay and the X Factor are going to be in the house. We're going to continue to talk Tennessee football all night long. But I got to do a quick little plug. You guys know the deal. If you've not smashed the thumbs up, what are you waiting on? Again, mind-blowing information. Checking out the analytics on YouTube today. When I discovered that 42% of our viewers are not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting on? Subscribe, smash the thumbs up, become a member of the channel. 99 cents a month. That's all I'm asking. Just $1. That's it. You want to give $5, you want to give $10, you want to give $2.99, you want to give $35, whatever you want to give, hit the join button down below. We would appreciate it. Also, go check out the merch. Bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. We got some new merch dropping your way soon, and we're probably going to delete some of these old shirts forever. So if you want one of those, you better get in where you fit in. Again, bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. That link is in the description below as well. Let me get this quick super chat from Brian S. for $10. Just nothing to say, just a tip in the old tip jar. We appreciate that, Brian. Thank you for the support. Thank you to everybody that's dropped a super chat tonight. Eric Anderson says, Boogie, you got 265 people watching live and only 92 thumbs up. The way I read that is like, I don't know, 200 people. I can't do math. Like 200 people don't like what I'm doing, and that's okay. We will allow it. Let's have some fun. Let's get these two cats on here. What's up, Coach Jay? What's up, X Factor? What's going on?
What's going on, crew? What's going on with you?
X, I know you don't follow recruiting as much, so I'll throw this to Coach Jay. What'd you think listening to Matt Ray talk? I'm a little fired up for July. I think we got some fun stuff coming our way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we got some good things coming our way. I think Vol fans can get a little impatient and impatient. I get that. Heck, I'm super impatient. So I certainly understand that. And I think after the two big recruiting weekends, we kind of wanted some big dominoes to fall immediately. But hype's been on point, man. I think we got to keep trusting in hype, keep letting them run the ship and steer it the right way. And I think he's going to do the right thing, man. I think we're going to get some big commits. I think we get Matthews in the boat. I think we get at least one more highly rated receiver, whether that be Jefferson or the other 4-star kid. maybe even Ryan Wingo. I think we continue to load up this wide receiver position, but I'd like to see Edwin Spillman close sooner than later, and keep that linebacker position loaded. I'm telling you, we're getting thick as thieves at that LB position, and the depth there is starting to get really exciting. Like to see a little more depth at defensive tackle, but I feel good about the edge position, and I think everyone is wanting a little more offensive line. Where's the beef? Where's the beef, guys? Give me more beef. But besides that, I feel good, man. I think we're going to come out of July feeling really good.
I don't think it's completely out of the equation that Tennessee lands Braylon Staley, Mike Matthews, and Ryan Wingo. Like the fact that Ryan Wingo is waiting to make his decision. If he comes on campus officially during the season, I think Tennessee has every opportunity to land him. Rocky Top Tom for $2. Now that's a solid recruiting breakdown. Buck Fama. Thank you, Rocky Top Tom, for the $2, dude. Matt's good, man. You guys know AP, I think, is the GOAT when it comes to covering recruiting. But like I said at the top of the video, when Matt came on, Matt joined Volquest, and he immediately got the respect factor. He did not get hazed. He did not get joked with. It was, this dude is good at what he does, and he's going to be great here. And Matt does a great job. He's actually good buddies with Dell Dowden. They work together at SI.com. Had Dell on last week, and we were talking off air, and he's like, dude, Matt, we've talked about your channel off air multiple times. He would come on, and I was like, just blind DM'd him. I'm like, hey, man, when you coming on Talkin VAWLS? He's like, anytime you want. I was like, let's do Wednesday at 7. That's the type of recruiting information you can get at Volquest. I know I promote them and plug them all the time. They do a lot on YouTube. They do a lot on their website that you don't get on YouTube. That's where it's at. Timmy Williams for 5. Appreciate the super chat. Love this show. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Timmy, for the super chat. We appreciate that. Guys, 100 subscribers away from 21,000. Let's hit it. Let's get it done. Look, I told you guys both, I put up the bat signal. I was like, X, what are you doing? You want to come on? You want to come hang out? You want to talk some football? I know X doesn't really follow recruiting like some of us do, but we got some fun stuff to get into tonight. Gaming Guy becomes a member of the channel at Emoji Access.
That's exactly what I was doing right before I hopped onto the show. As everybody knows, I was backstage playing 2K. And then when Boogie, threw up the bat signal, I was just like, yeah, I'll be right there after I get a quick game of 2K in. But as far as recruiting though, yeah, like I said, I'm not like, the biggest recruiting guru, like you, Boogie, and stuff like that. But it, I do kind of, I keep my eyes out peeled a little bit, like I said, the eye popping emojis. Yeah, I keep my eye out to see what kind of big fish that we're going to get into the boat. But like what you said, though, with those 3 top heavy recruits, I mean, you got to land at least 2 of the 3. If you can at least land 2 of the 3, like I said, that's going to be really, really big for us. But yeah, I mean, July is going to be pretty exciting. So yeah, I can't wait to hear those big names. Hopefully we'll hit either 1, but if not 1, hopefully 2 of the big 3 recruits.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I really think this class right now has close to the same number of 4 stars as last year's class did. And we got a long way to go. I mean, we got a long way to go. So we'll continue to keep you guys updated. We got some fun film breakdowns. Coach Jay, what do we decide on? Braylon Staley coming up on Sunday, and then Jake Merklinger. Hey, we've been harassed enough. It's time to drop that Jake Merklinger is going to come the Sunday after that. All right, let's jump into the news. This is kind of an extension of what I talked about this morning. This morning's video, look, I don't always do. This is something that Sports Talk Jay does, not me. This is his type of video. Anonymous coaches say, and Sports Talk Jay is great at what he does, but it popped up on my feed, and I kind of talked about it because what came up this morning was a SEC coach basically saying that Joe Milton is not the guy, that Joe Milton basically sucks, and they're going to have to find another quarterback. And then right before we went live, I was like, all right, Matt's going to give me 40 minutes. I got to find some stuff to talk about. And this popped up on my timeline, and it has a few more coaches on it. It's got a few more quotes here. Let's see. Let me skip all the nonsense we don't need to read. Here is a quote from an anonymous coach. They were legit good last year. That wasn't a fluke or a gimmick. That offense is no more or less a gimmick system than anyone else's. I've got an uncle. I can't remember his name. his name escapes my mind, but I have an uncle out there that seems to like to use the word gimmick, and his stupid little minions come into the chat, they come into the comments, and they throw the word gimmick around. It's so weird. They're minions. They just regurgitate everything that my uncle says. But this coach says it's not a gimmick. I think a lot of coaches are just sore how much they get scored on. Here's another quote. Milton is not going to be Hooker, so the ceiling won't be as high. They need to develop more depth at wide receiver to stay creative. This system is like a new age option offense where it's hard as hell to practice against it in a single week, and you get burned easily because you're tired. You can't replicate the tempo and pace unless you do a little bit all season. So let's start there, X Factor. Milton is not the guy. That was from the video this morning. Now we're reading right here. Milton's not Hendon Hooker. Of course, you're not Boogie Bentley. I'm not the X Factor. I'm not Coach J. But the ceiling won't be as high. What do you think about Joe Milton going into this year?
Well, as you all know, like I said, I'm with everybody, here in the boat with this. Yes, we all need Joe Milton to succeed for this coming season. Yes, he's not going to be Hendon Hooker like for play. I mean, we cannot get that into our headspace. It's just, look, it's a brand new year. It's Joe Milton's. He's got the starting job again. We have to root for Joe and just see what happens. And I think that Josh Heupel in this offense is going to, yes, we're still going to go fast. That's obviously our key. But I think what Josh Heupel is planning to do is kind to try to mold the offense of like kind of Joe Milton's play style a little bit, and that might help him in the odds of his favor. But yeah, as far as they say he's not the guy, but the true question should be, is he a true quarterback that can, read defense and offense? Because we also know one coach that said, gave us a big speech about true quarterbacks and everything, but no little shots fired there. But but yeah, no, like I said, we just got to ride with Joe Milton, man. He's definitely the key to our success, and hopefully he can get us to at least 9 wins, because I feel like 9 wins is definitely our ceiling to have a successful season going forward.
Yeah, yeah. I of course you nailed it, Boogie. I mean, no one's anyone else, right? Joe's gonna have to stand on his own two leg, and his true test is gonna come over the span of 11 games, not over 2 games, or even 1 or 2 games at the beginning of the previous season when he had, some overthrown footballs. So Joe's going to have to go out there and stand on a brand new season, and every year is a brand new year. I think it's really easy for fans to get stuck in the previous year. And I can tell you, every team is just a completely different breed. It doesn't mean that you can't build on what you got, but it's a different animal, and this UT team will be a different animal. I think we can take it to higher levels. I think we will take it to higher levels, and you might lose 1 or 2 attributes with Hendon Hooker, but if Joe can show that he's cured some of his accuracy issues, then he brings a lot of attributes that Hendon Hooker doesn't have. He's going to make it that much harder to play zero coverage on Tennessee. He can get the ball out that much quicker on those really widespread stack formations. He can get the ball out on those bubbles a whole lot quicker, and the quicker you get the ball out on those bubbles, on those little hitches, the easier it is for your Brew McCoy to throw a block out there on an island for a little squirrel white out there in space, and it just starts creating more and more problems for a defense. So Joe's going to have some attributes that Hendon didn't have, and Hendon will have a couple attributes that Joe didn't have. The trick will be balancing that, and that will be the mission for Joey Halsey and Josh Heupel out there this year. Make no mistake about it. It's always going to be a team effort. The coaches will have a bit to say about it. Ultimately, it will rest on Mr. Milton's shoulders. But I think he's gotten a lot more mature. I think he's gained a lot by being so close to Hendon Hooker. I mean, if you I think every Tennessee fan who's watched Joe, and I'll tell you, just speaking from my own experience, I absolutely have 180'd on Joe Milton. The kid has he's just earned a fan, man. Like like Rocky fighting in Russia against Ivan Drago. Man, I was one of those Russians
Oh,
rooting against Milton there for a second, and then
If he
sometimes you got to
dies, he dies.
he dies. Yeah, but sometimes you got to check yourself. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm pissed he
Mhm.
overthrew a ball. Yeah, I'm pissed he made a bonehead play in Ole Miss. That man, I hate crap like that. But
Mhm.
you know what? I think he learned from it. I think you can be better for it. I think you can fail forward as a player at times. And I think just in listening to him talk in the off season and the way he carries himself, uh, it's starting to look like a duck and walk like a duck when it comes to Joe Milton being a changed person. And I think that quarterback can certainly change as well.
And I'll say this real quick, Coach, and actually you pretty much know about this well. Failure is honestly the best teacher. Like what you just said. Like, yeah, with that Ole Miss
Hmm.
game of him, what I'm saying, running out of bounds at the last second, and then he just soaked it all in. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he was really torn about it for the rest of the whole season. And then watching his roommate and his good buddy, Hendon, just go out and be that leader, and also instilled leadership within to him has made him mature a lot more. But yeah, man, I mean, failure is honestly your best teacher. And then of course with this article right here, and again, like Josh Heupel, from the previous season, he said not to really get into the whole social media thing, block out the outside noise. But I just say, man, just use it as fuel. I mean, if I was Joe Milton and I was hearing these things, yeah, I'm using it as fuel, and I'm just gonna prove my haters wrong.
it's like obviously the Ole Miss play is one that it haunts me to this day, right? It's
Mhm.
like there's
Mhm.
no excuse for that. But at the same time, man, these kids, you don't think that he thinks about that every day. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? Like he thinks about
Hmm.
it probably still to this day. Probably,
Mhm.
it's like a kid dropping a pass. You think they're going out there trying to drop pass? Like they put in the work, man. They work as hard as anybody. And it's like my daughter had a cheer competition at Tennessee a couple of weeks ago, and the stunt team beside her dropped the girl. And it's like they
Hmm.
had busted their butts all week long at cheer camp. And we saw the coach come over and she looked like she was getting on him. We asked her afterwards. She was like, no, she was telling us, look, y'all have killed yourselves all week. Y'all have hit this stunt over and over and over and over. I'm not going to fault you for making a mistake when the bright lights were on. It's the same thing for Joe Milton. Like you said, X, you learn from your mistakes, you get better, and you improve. Let me hit this super chat real quick from Rocky Top Tom for 2. Joe Milton will go Ricky Bobby fast. He is ready. Thank you, Tom, for the super chat. We appreciate that. It's just funny, Coach, you said something that Joe Milton won you over. And we talk
Hmm.
about his accuracy issues. And that's something I mentioned in the video this morning. 2021, 51.6% completion percentage. 2022, he improved that by 13% to 64.6%. Now, I know it's mop-up duty. That's the thing. You had a legitimate game against Vanderbilt, 52.4%. A legitimate game against Clemson, 67.9%. Joe Milton in his time at Tennessee, 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's the funny part about it. We can sit here and we can spin this any way you want to spin it. I can sit here right now and tell you all the reasons why Joe Milton's going to fail. And then on the flip side, as soon as I get done, I can say, let me change direction. And I can tell you all the reasons why Joe Milton is going to succeed. That's why it's on him. Coach Jay, you said it. It's on Joe. Joe's got to go out and be Joe, not Hendon. He doesn't have to go out and be Hendon. He doesn't have to go out and be Peyton. He doesn't have to go out and be Casey Clausen. Joe's got to go out and be Joe. And he's going to have a huge opportunity this fall. Let's roll on down to the next comment because this one gets me a little bit more pissed off than the last one. The defense still has leftover talent from Jeremy Pruitt. They're just asked to play complimentary ball and create a few stops. This one's comical to me. Comical. They still have Jeremy Pruitt players. Really? Like, do we want to talk about the players from the Jeremy Pruitt era? The article this morning, it was comical. They're basically giving Hendon Hooker's success to Jeremy Pruitt instead of Josh Heupel. Does anybody want to go watch tape of Hendon Hooker at Virginia Tech? Anybody? I'll gladly sit down and we can go through it. Josh Heupel developed Hendon Hooker. You want to talk about talent on Jeremy Pruitt's team? You want to talk about Henry To'oTo'o and Crouch and how they jumped into the transfer portal, allegedly because they took money in McDonald's bags. You want to talk about Eric Gray? You want to put Eric Gray in Josh Heupel's offense and see what happens? Hold my beer. I will wait for that. Those kids, so I think it's like 40-some players transferred out. Josh Heupel had nothing left in the tank, and he did a great job going to the portal, and he filled gaps, and he built a team, and he talked about culture and family, and he goes out and he overachieves in year 1. He goes out and he overachieves in year 2. So to give Jeremy Pruitt, Xavier, any ounce of credit infuriates me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, to give credit, like saying, to that cornball that obviously has ran our program to the ground. I mean, literally just that, to the ground. He gets no respect, like absolutely no respect. And then plus two, he's the reason why we're still in this ongoing investigation, which should have been resolved a long time ago. I don't know why we're still going on with this investigation, but yeah, I mean, just cornball is just like I said, as far as like the greatest coaches to coach here at Tennessee, nah, he's not in my book. And like I said, because yeah, I know we talk about Dooley, we talk about Lane, and we talk about Butch Jones and stuff. And like I said, as far as like Pruitt, nah, just he's not in one of my lists of coaches to really talk about. And then of course, Josh Heupel, this is here, this is now, and we just got to give him some time, let him develop these players, and just see where he takes us. And so far, I'm pretty sure he's doing a dang good job, and especially like after from what Pruitt left us with till now, I think Josh Heupel's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job. I mean, yeah, could you say there were some holdovers from Pruitt after transfers? I mean, yeah,
Of course.
Hooker wasn't one of them, but what you can also do with all those holdovers is you can grab, any position that was there, whether it be Darnell, whether it be Jalen, whether it be Cedric Tillman. I mean, shoot, you want to talk about a transformation of players. Look no further than Cedric Tillman. I mean, that guy was on his way to nowhere fast, right? How many yards did he have? I don't think it was. I think it was under 100 a season.
I think
Easy.
he had 8 receptions in 3
Yeah,
years.
8 receptions. It was just abysmal, which just shows you how poorly he was being developed. Look at the tools that young man has. Absolute freak. And the fact that they couldn't develop him is troublesome, and it's every position down the line, guys. It's not just one. I would challenge you that it's every single one of the Pruitt holdovers that got better under Josh Heupel, and development is a huge part of this game. You can bring in top 5 class talent all you want. You look at Butch Jones. Look at some of the kids he brought in, your Khalil McKenzie's, your Shai Tuttles. Those kids didn't amount to what they should have been. Look at your Alvin Kamara's. They didn't accomplish what they could have accomplished at the University of Tennessee under those coaches. You got to develop these kids, and when you get a good coach in that's developing them, your Sabins, your Kirby Smarts that's developing, then you got something, right? It's not only recruiting and evaluation, but development. And Heupel has shown that he's a master level developer. And I think a lot of people don't understand what he did have to work with that first year, and what he did accomplish. And I'd wager a nice chunk of change that in 15 years from now, like, let's say it's all perfect for Tennessee fans, and in 15 years, Hype's won a ship, a bunch of conference championships, blah blah blah. Everything's perfect. He might tell you his favorite team, the team he's the most proud of, was that year 1 team. If I know something about coaches, I would bet something like that. So I think he's got much to be proud of, and he's changed everything about Tennessee since he's been here in a brief amount of time. He's just got to keep that foot on the gas. A lot of people think that window's cracked a little bit under Joe Milton. There is some pressure on his shoulders, but I also think we've got some other rounds in the chamber if we need to fire him off. So I think we'll be just fine either way.
Yeah, that's what I love from the video this morning. You might have to find somebody else. Oh, I don't know, like a generational quarterback that's going to be sitting on the bench, early enrollee that knows the system, been working his butt off, installed everything to his iPad when he came in for bowl practice, came back for spring camp, ready to go. You don't think Nico's going to be ready to go?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Those first couple of games are warm-ups, boys. And if Joe Milton doesn't have it between the head, between the ears by the Florida game, I have all the confidence in the world that somebody's going to be ready to go. I don't want a freshman out there on the field, but I think he's going to be ready to go. But this is a $5 super chat from Wayne Starnes. Joe needs to go be himself. I agree. Joe, go be Joe. Man, the redemption story. That's
play your game, man. Yeah, exactly. Just go and play your game. Just be yourself. Yeah, don't be Hendon Hooker. Don't be Peyton Manning. Don't be any other, previous ball players that we had. Just go and be Joe Milton, man. Just go and play your game.
Yeah, and I think we talk about the Orange Bowl and it being a small sample size, and it is the 2 games, right? The Vanderbilt and the game in the rain, and Clemson. But one thing I did like about that Clemson game, everyone kind of is quick to remember how that game ended and slow to remember how that game began on the first couple drives. But that was the top 10 defense, a really stingy defense for Clemson last year, and they were getting to Milton early. They were batting balls down. The pressure was on. The offense was stalling out. Milton overthrew a ball or 2, but you know what? He gathered himself. He grabbed his team. He rallied around him. He settled down, and he put the ball where it needed to be on the money. After that, he threw strikes almost from that 3rd series on. So. I think it's kind of a microcosm for his career in a way in that one little game. And let's see if he can carry that over. Let's see if he can come out firing in Virginia. I think we're going to get some answers quickly on Joe Milton come game 1.
Dylan Elam for 5. Don't disrespect Heisman hopeful Gaston Moore either. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
gotta say, gaming guy does have a pretty good question. He said, if Joe Milton gets hurt, who do you bring out? Is it Gaston Moore or is it Nico?
What game and what's our record?
Yes, it depends on what game. Florida on the road, maybe Gaston Moore. And then you come back home, you resettle when you get Nico ready to go for game 4.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
It's not ideal for Nico to get thrown to the wolves on the road in the swamp. That's not ideal.
Because like I said, you don't want to tarnish.
That's definitely not an ideal way to go.
Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to tarnish him like that. Nah.
No, but I'm gonna go flute in my mouth here. I got some faith in Nico, guys. I really do. I got some faith in him. I had some faith in my boy Bryce when he got thrown to the wolves at Bama. I've seen what that kid could do. I was around him quite a bit and saw what he could do. I've seen what Nico can do. I know a lot of similar coaching from those kids, and I've talked in depth with coaches who have coached Nico, and just seeing him live, guys. He's got all those tools, and he's cool. He's Fonzie cool, and he's calm, and he's just got a dime. He's creative. You saw a little tease of it in the spring game, but he was throwing to walk-ons and 4s and 5s and freshmen. And if I was going to have any freshmen step in, I'm happy it's Nico, I guess is the point I'm making.
You put your life savings on it, Coach?
I'll put my life savings on a quarterback, a freshman quarterback. Well, that's yeah. I got $2.50. Hold on. No, I'm just kidding.
Who would you rather put your life savings on, Nico or Arian Carter? Old linebacker coach, you.
I think they're both mustard, but Nico. But it's close. It's super close, but I'll take Nico. I'll take Nico because I kind of know the lineage, and people have been around him, and I've talked to people around him and seen him up close. If I had all that background behind Arian, maybe it'd be different, but I don't. So with that said, I'll go with Nico. I think he's mustard. I think that when Coach P said he's the smartest quarterback he's ever coached, that held a lot of weight with me. I know he didn't say that lightly, having Bryce play for him for all the years that he did. And Bryce is scary smart. If there was one, attribute that Bryce has, It's his intelligence and his football IQ. And for Coach P to put Nico in front of him and do it in a public way like that, it meant something. I mean, that's like Phil Jackson calling Kobe better than Michael. It means something when if he did. I'm not saying Phil did that. I'm just saying, when someone does something like that,
Oh
it
yeah,
means something.
I got you, Coach.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
X down there about to go off on somebody.
Yeah.
You talking about NBA?
I did hear Phil say though that he'd always take the team with Shaq on it above anyone because he was such a disadvantage to everybody. But we don't have to get into basketball.
You're getting X is about to go this way. He's
I'm sorry.
Welcome to Talking NBA.
Let me tell you. Now we can switch the subject. Let me tell you about the USC recruiting pitch, guys.
Good Lord, I'm gonna have to kick everybody off.
Talking Trojans over here.
I rewatched that. I was spot checking the audio. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just as worse as I thought it was live. Rocky Top Tom for $2. Thank you for the super chat. Hypothetical. O-line protects Joe and 1,000-yard back. Go. Go means we got to answer. So I'm assuming he's asking who the 1,000-yard back would be. I'm going Jalen Wright. I keep saying he's going to have a breakout year, X, but Jalen Wright led the team in rushing last year. So is that really a breakout year, or are we just going to get a little bit more? I don't know that Jabari Small is going to stay healthy. Does Dylan Sampson push? I think Jalen Wright's the guy this year.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Boog. Yeah, I think Jalen Wright is definitely the guy. And especially, we all seen the stunt, in the spring where, he did his Twitter fingers, at the front office, and he was like, hey, if you guys don't do something, I'm going to transfer out, give me an NIL deal. And it worked, I mean, the front office gave him a bigger NIL deal, and then and that's just the thing with Jabari Small, man. I really do love Jabari Small. I really do. But yeah, it's just him battling with that shoulder injury. It's just really tough for him right now. And I mean, not saying that he's going to be taken out of the starting lineup or anything like that. I think it's going to be Jalen Wright and Jabari Small as your 1-2 punch. But also too, now Deshaun Bishop though, man. I mean, he showed promise during that orange and white game. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough competition battle in the running back spot.
You go add Peyton Lewis and Braylon Russell. Come on, that. We were criticizing recruiting at the running back position, and now I look at the running back room and I'm like, good gracious. Now you're going to add Peyton Lewis and Braylon Russell both to that running back room when Jabari Small is the only senior in the room. So Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, Cam Seldon, all going to be back. You mentioned Deshaun Bishop. Keith, I know a lot of people are high on him. I'm not. I'm sorry. Don't at me, bro. Don't yell at me about Keith's speed. I just think he is going to get passed by when you're bringing in guys like Peyton Lewis and Braylon Russell. I think they are the perfect 1-2 punch. Steve Wiltfong called Peyton Lewis the fastest player in this class. Braylon Russell, you heard Matt Ray say, that kid's 250, but he looks 225, and he runs like Peyton Lewis. He runs like a 4.4, 4.5 40, something like that at 250 pounds. That's SEC caliber talent. That's what we talk about. Dylan's not wrong. Boogie hates Castles and Keith both. Apparently I do.
And Rocky Top Tom, I say Cam Seldon too. Cam Seldon is another big one too.
Yeah. How quickly can they get Cam Seldon adapted to blocking at the SEC level? Has Dylan Sampson corrected his blocking deficiencies? If he can, he could take off as well. But Cam also gives you that other angle, guys. It's really easy when Cam's in that backfield, if you've got some funny looking heat coming out you, to audible out and stick him into a secondary slot, either into a Y or an H slot in addition to your S slot. And good luck blitzing him, because I can run a drag and a post and a comeback underneath and a seam and create all kinds of issues for you on that blitz.
It's just watching Cam Seldon in that orange and white game. It reminded me, not exactly like it, but a little bit of Eric Berry, man. Just a little bit. That's why I was just like, this kid's gonna
careful. I got in trouble like that the other day, X. And I said, man, I'm not saying he's Eric Berry, and everyone was like, Coach said he's Eric
no. I said, I'm not saying
it's confirmed.
Yeah.
The best were the comments on that video of people making the same comparison. So you're influencing people. That's the definition of influencer.
Yeah,
Eric shades of Eric Berry.
Yeah, Eric Berry's a stud, man. Like I said, they will never. I mean, there's potential for somebody to be just like him, but nah, man, Eric Berry, he was just a different beast altogether. I love
Yeah,
me some Eric Berry.
I think Cam's going to end up just a little more solid than Eric
Mm-hmm.
from a weight and muscle mass standpoint. I would be surprised if that kid can't pass block. I guess we'll find out. But if Cam could pass block and Jabari can't stay healthy,
Mm-hmm.
then we could see some Cam, especially if Dylan's struggling in pass protection because I think it just flat out kept him out of games last year. But I'm excited about Jalen Wright. I do think he leads the room. I really loved last year how Jalen Wright seemed to take it personal that he kept coming up short on those short yardage downs the
Mm-hmm.
previous year. I feel like he got every third and fourth and one they handed him the ball after the previous year. Something about that bowl game against Purdue, he just took it personal and got nasty with it. And I think Sproggins took it personal too. I was rewatching the game. Sproggins is just mauling people at that inside guard position. I don't think we should sell Mr. Sproggins short. I think we'll be able to
Yeah.
run behind the center and Sproggins for the most part when
I
we're
think
spread out
he's
wide.
trying to be, I know it's two different positions, but he's trying to be that Darnell Wright this year. I think he's playing for that
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
first round draft pick. Let me go out and prove
Mm-hmm.
myself. And if he does, then it continues to show you that Glenn Ellerby can develop talent. That was a conversation earlier with Matt Ray when we're talking about the offensive line position. It's interesting, man. And if Gage Ginther bumps up, I know he's already been bumped up. I think ESPN and Rivals both bumped him to a 4-star, and now Matt's on here talking, saying Jesse Perry is better than people think. Stars aren't everything. They are important. Like
Mm-mm.
I don't like the
Mm-hmm.
argument of I would rather have somebody that wants to be here than a 5-star. No, 5 stars are important because more times than
Mm-hmm.
not, the 5 stars hit and the 3 stars don't. But if you've got a coaching staff, and Matt said it, they don't freaking care. They don't care what these kids are rated. They're watching film and they are evaluating
Mm-hmm.
and they're going with the guys that they
Mm-hmm.
feel like are talented. And that's what they're doing with Gage Ginther and Jesse Perry. But they're also targeting guys like Bennett Warren, William Satterwhite, the Easley kid, and Calhoun. Look, Calhoun just chose to go somewhere else. I don't know what happened with Easley. Very interesting to take your official visit and then all of a sudden not be a take. And then Brent Hubbs followed it up by saying, it wasn't. He's a good kid. It's nothing, against his personality or his character. That's weird. Was it something physical that they saw? I don't know. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Could have been. It could have been a physical evaluation too. I think a lot of
Probably.
times we forget these kids will go through physicals when they're on campus, and they can get flagged for one reason or another there as well.
I was going to read this comment, David.
Yeah.
Are we now 4-star U? That's amazing because it's like,
Hmm.
remember when the 3-star U insults came in all the time and it was like, oh, 3-star U. And now all of a sudden 4 stars aren't good enough.
Yeah.
Everybody's panicking, freaking out.
Well, and then we also got to keep in mind too, because going back to to the Butch Jones era, because he was big on stargazing. He was like, oh, we got to have this 4-star, this 4-star, and this 5-star talent, this is that. And like what you were saying, a few minutes ago, Coach. I mean, look at that talent that Butch Jones had, and he just could not develop it to its peak. He developed it to where, I mean, yeah, they kind of won us some big games like
Did he? Or was
Florida,
it
Georgia.
natural ability? Was it development or natural ability?
And again, I mean, that's just tough, because I mean, like right now, you look in the NFL, look at Alvin Kamara, like saying, look, Alvin, he's a stud right now. I mean, I'm not a big Saints fan or nothing, but I love watching him.
He's the
dude.
face
Like,
of the program. Right now, I would say that Alvin Kamara is more important than Peyton Manning. 100,000 times more important.
oh yeah, for those definitely. But yeah, but it's just that's why I like with Butch, man. It's just like, man, like he had so much talent, and if he could just coach them up to their peak and to their ability, man, I promise you guys, I'm pretty sure we probably would have been at least in the college playoffs back then. I really believe that.
Should have won an SEC championship for sure. Look, we're an hour and 20 minutes into this thing. We're going to go another 10 minutes or so. There's another topic. I had a couple of topics in mind, didn't know what direction I would go. The conversation's been great, so we're going to take it down one last road here. We got 230 people still watching live, so we appreciate you guys. That's why we're bringing you more content. Matt said he could go 40. I threw up the bat signal. Look at this shirt. I threw up the bat signal. And these two guys come in, do a little work. We appreciate it. But guys, do me a favor. Seriously, smash the thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed. Tell somebody about the Talkin VAWLS Network. If you know somebody that's a Tennessee fan and they don't know anything about YouTube, say, hey, you got to get on YouTube and check out this channel. It is really legitimately for the fans, by the fans. You guys are what continues to grow this channel. So word of mouth is better than anything. Go check out the merch. Go check out the stickers and decals. All the links are in the description below. One last thing I want to take a look at is this right here. Somebody sent me this. Joey Carroll sent me this right before we went live. NCAA proposes reducing transfer portal window to 30 days. Says according to a press release from the NCAA, they've introduced a proposal to shorten the transfer portal window to 30 days, down from the current 60-day period. As a content creator, I hate this because the transfer portal moves the needle. It gets views. It makes money. But as a football coach, I would probably like this. Talks about the window only being in effect for a year, but in that time provided enough data to the NCAA for them to determine that most athletes enter the portal at the beginning of the window. With a shorter window, coaches would have much easier task in rebuilding or supplementing their roster after a season concludes. Football currently has two transfer portal windows, 45-day window that started the day after the college football playoff and bowl matchups were announced, and a second window, April 15th through the 30th this spring. Coach Jay, any thoughts on this?
I mean, shortening the windows, I think, I mean, sure, I guess it doesn't matter too much. I mean, I think you're creating more backroom deals, right? I think you're creating more high school coaches calling around when their kid's not happy at their university, and back end deals being, are being made out there. But I guess those are happening anyway and are certainly happening already. So
how do you stop that? I mean, how do you stop tampering? Chase Burns, for example, he said that he knew back as soon as he went to the bullpen, as soon as Tennessee pulled him as a starter, Coach Vitello made the right decision. Don't at me, bro. He made the right decision at the time to throw Burns to the bullpen. And Chase Burns could have made a lot of money by that move, but he elected at that time. He knew he was going to the portal. And then instantly, the second he enters, he knows where he's going. We saw it with the kid, the Bolitnikoff Award winner from 2021, the kid that transferred from Pitt to USC. I don't know why his name's escaping me, but it is. Whatever. I can't remember his name. He knew where he was going the second he entered the portal. How do you stop tampering? I don't know that you can. I don't know that you can stop it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can stop it either, Boog. And then, like I said, then this kind of relates to is this. I don't know how you even stop this either, but kids opting out of bowl games to go to the NFL. How do you even stop that? Because and I get it. It's the kid's choice if they want to go ahead and go off to the league. But I know, like what you said, Boog, it's basically quitting on your team when from the beginning that you first signed that contract to say, this is my team. I'm gonna ride and die, for the T. This is and that. But then when your opportunity comes along, and then the NFL comes knocking on your door saying, hey, if you opt out of this bowl game and just come straight into the league, into the draft, we're going to give you this amount of money. So, but I just kind of wish that something was done more about that. I mean, like I said, the portal, the portal, like putting kind of like a time limit on it is pretty cool. But I think the biggest issue is, like I said, having players literally opting out during the playoff season or even competing for like national championships. Because if I was, on a team and I don't know, like my like team captain quarterback, got an offer from the NFL, like say he's getting drafted and he just opts out. He's like, nah, I don't need this college championship. I'm going to the NFL. I'd be pretty pissed. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, So now I'm gonna go out and play my hardest, but I'm just gonna be like, well, we'll give it a shot. So,
but
how do you guys feel about that?
I see both sides of it, right? It's easy for me as a Tennessee fan to sit here and say that's weak. That's weak to bail on your team. And man, I got ripped to shreds when I criticized Jalen Hyatt for doing it. But the way I was raised, you finish what you started. And if you and I started something together, I'm going to finish it. And then I got criticized and said, will you quit your job, Boogie? Yeah. And I put in my notice when I quit my job. I finished the task at hand. Like that's not quitting on my coworkers. I finished the job. I finished the task. You don't sign up to play football until you make the playoffs, till you make the SEC championship game. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. but I think we're talking about different generations. But on the flip side, let me talk out of both sides of my mouth, because if you guys hadn't figured it out by now, I talk out of both sides of my mouth, and then I make you guys decide in the chat and in the comments. That's what I do around here. If it was me and you said, Boogie, you got to go out here and you got to play a game of football. If you get hurt, it could cost you millions of dollars. I would say, I'll see you guys later. I will be over here with my family waiting to get called on draft day. Coach Jay, you going to talk out of both sides of your mouth, or do you have a strong opinion on that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think NIL could help be somewhat of an antidote to it for your good NFL players. I mean, especially if the NIL collectives or their sponsors are, hey, if I'm paying you, $5 million to go advertise something, then I want you advertising it during the biggest game of the year. So why would I not kind of put a mechanism in for that? So I think there'll be some self-correction with the market with that. I don't think you'll ever stop all of it.
No.
Never. And in the modern media day, no coaches are going to go out there and badmouth an NFL prospect. Like back in the olden days, old school coaches might go to that NFL meeting and go, this kid's a piece of crap, right? He's a quitter. He ain't no good. Da, 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 da. Nowadays, you F around, you'll find out, and kids won't want to go to your school. So that kind of self-correction is passed as far as the game goes. But yeah, I'd like to see him play. I mean, I'm kind of old school like you in that way, Boog. I want to see him play. If you start something, finish it. Take it all the way through. The NCAA isn't going to regulate anything. They couldn't regulate a potato gun, let alone a $1 billion business. Apparently, they can't even wrap up a pretty simple investigation. So they're pretty useless. And I think it's going to be the Wild West for a little while. And I think until it settles down, that's how it's going to be.
Somebody said X talking on a different topic. Yeah, but it was better. So you can just ignore the article. That was a much better conversation. I was just trying to get us to the hour-and-a-half mark, because you guys have been awesome tonight. You guys show up, show out, show love every single time we go live. Look, we're going to be covering recruiting moving forward. Coming up on Friday, Braylon Staley scheduled to make a decision. I don't have an exact time. Matt Ray said the afternoon. I've seen people saying 4 o'clock. I don't think we're going to do a live, because I don't think he's doing anything. I think he's just going to pull the trigger, post it on Twitter. Elijah Rushing, 5-star Edge, July the 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Myself, Coach Jay, will go live about 30 minutes prior to that. Braylon Russell, 4-star running back, July the 14th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Same deal. We'll go live about 30 minutes prior to that. If these kids schedule a commitment, we are going to try to cover it live as long as our schedule permits. But we will keep you guys up to date on that. Make sure you're dialed in, checking out all the content. As always, I go live every single Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, playing NCAA football, talking about what type of cheeseburger I like to eat. That's what we do on Monday nights. I don't make the rules. I just go with what you guys have to say. But we are going to wrap it up. We're an hour and a half into this thing. Great stuff from Matt Ray. Go check him out. All the links are in the description. Shout out to Coach Jay and the X Factor for coming on when I put up the bat signal. That's going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.
That we call home.